Welcome back to Dig Deeper's Kink Special, and I'm joined once again by Lisa-Skye, Hunter and Dylen. Dylen, you were talking about as a slave, this is something difficult for you possibly?
I was saying it can be interesting being around switchers sometimes with the energy, because as a slave, there are ways I naturally and instinctively react to a person, and if their energy is changed, it creates a different dynamic to be interacting with them.
The stuff that I'm into very much depends on very much depends on what the other person is into. So I'm not going to go to someone and say, here's what I like to do this role play and use these toys and use this thing, because as I kind of tend to identify as a service top. So I only want to do what you want me to do, even if you really hate it. And you know, calling me all sorts of terrible names, which makes me cackle like an idiot. I'm very flexible, whereas I know people who are just like, I only like this, you know, I only like being tied up with rope, or I only like adult baby stuff, or, you know, there are very, you know, people who are very much only into this one type of kink. Whereas like, it's all good, what do you want? We can discuss it. Here are my hard limits.
Well that's, it's all a bit of fun, right?
And a lot of people don't recognise as well that switchers can maintain different roles at the same time with different dynamics. It's not just being one person and then switching over. They can have different roles, different relationships at the same time.
Have you guys always known you were into kink?
Yeah.
Yeah? Always?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
When I was
You're
like...
the new kid.
When I was like 5 or 6 years old, the folklore leghorn getting tied up and forced feminized, like made into a lady, I thought about that a lot.
Interesting.
Really?
Do you remember that
I do
episode
remember.
of Bugs Bunny? Of course you do.
so.
Of course I do.
Most kinky people are like, I don't know why that's good. But yeah, it was always there. Like having a crush on Wendy James from Transvision Vamp. You know, you can't like, I always knew I was queer.
That, though,
She was amazing. I always knew I was queer. I always knew I was kinky. There was no real coming out. It was just like, oh yeah, there's a word for it and it's that. Cool, let's move on. I think because my parents were such like, you know, accepting hippie people. So.
Yeah, I had the same thing.
Yeah,
my parents were in the television industry, so I was like, I'm doing this now. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
then
like, supportive parents.
It is helpful.
Oh, they did have a meltdown when I came out as poly.
Oh, really?
A huge one, yeah.
Wow, okay.
It's okay if you tie your partner up, just don't have more than one.
Interesting to me that,
it was interesting to me. I'm like, how? They did that too when I moved in with my first boyfriend. I don't know where their moral, kind of weird moral lines in the sand are. When
you were first getting into it, did you guys go to clubs or venues, or did you do the online thing, or?
He got enjoyed before the internet.
That's right, I was around before the internet. I read about it I picked up Drummer magazine. I went to a dirty adult shop when I turned 16. It's okay, I'm well above that now. And I went in there and I found saw this really hot leather man on this thing. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then took it home and spent a lot of time studying. And then from there, found out about clubs and went to, you know, did all the workshops back. I was living in Sydney. Sydney Leather Pride was really helpful. And so they run workshops and that kind of thing, and I was there all the time. Yeah. And then when I turned 18, they finally asked me for ID, and they were like, oh my God. Like, well, it's okay, I've learnt a lot, it's fine. I'm not doing anything unsafely. But no,
Yeah, cool.
But clubs were really helpful as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't go into them under 18, kids.
I used to go to a lot of gay clubs and a lot of alternative clubs. So things like Three Faces and also Q&A. I also went to Bound at Paladin. This beautiful, like 7 foot tall goth boy that I used to work with took me there once, and I watched him get flogged, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. And then I saw my weird cousin there.
I went to
Hellfire?
one. Thank you. That's the one, Hellfire, right? So I went to that, reopened at one point, and some guy just hanging around, sort of, you know, just watching the whipping going on. And he, turns to me and says, "Are you going to get whipped?" You know, like, kind of creepy. There's sort of there's a lot of kind of spectator action. Have you found that? Sometimes?
Oh yeah, they're just having a look. Like,
they're
just checking it out
and getting really close and talking to people. And there is.
You need to outbutch them. That's like as a pretty girl, I find the only thing, because they have the power if they're looking at you and say like, "Oh, so what do you reckon? Are you into this?"
Yeah.
Or you just start talking about it. It's like, oh, nobody, maybe. And or just look at him and say, darling, I will tear through you like wet tissue paper. Like, yep, no worries.
Nice.
Yeah, all right, thanks for that.
Good. So, hey, I've read that 5% of the populace fesses up to being attracted to this kind of kinkiness.
The rest of them are liars.
Well, I wonder, this is what I wonder, do you think it's much more popular and people just can't kind of come out with it yet?
That's what I was saying before. A lot of people do stuff that is perceived as kinky at home and don't actually tell anyone about it. And then when you go, I'm into this, they go, oh, me too, I did that with this partner or this partner or whatever.
Sex dice are kinky.
Sex dice?
Yeah,
You know those sex dice like fondle nipple.
Yep.
And some people
done that.
Yeah.
Some people may be happy with having a fetish, but won't identify as kinky. There's a label there.
I just like this, just one little bit.
I just do this.
Yeah.
I'm just a straight guy, but I really like boots and I want to lick them. Whatever though, I only have sex the 3 ways.
Yeah, and that can be challenging as well. I've had a friend that said I'm too vanilla for the kinksters because he had a fetish, but too kinky for the vanillas.
Oh, really?
So you can get...
Wow.
If
He's not a girl, not yet a woman.
The Kama Sutra mentioned 4 different types of hitting apparently during sexy time, and also explicitly emphasises that biting and pinching during sexiness should only be performed consensually.
Always consent.
So is this where the line's drawn, do you think, between, say, sexual violence and...
Safe, and consensual.
Yeah, okay.
Risk-aware
talk about
consensual
that?
kink.
Huh?
Risk-aware consensual kink.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
risk-aware consensual kink.
I'm aware of the risks that I'm taking.
Excellent.
And I'm choosing to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it in a safe way,
Doing it in a safe way.
in a sane way, and in a consensual way.
Yeah.
Question regarding the bisexuals. Do you think there's a higher incidence of bis getting into kind of kinky stuff?
I don't know if it's higher. I think it certainly is directly related to people have done a lot more thinking and have worked out what it is that they do and don't want.
Should we just say about bisexuality? I don't like to identify as bisexual because it implies gender binaries. So I just like to say queer.
Pansexual.
Pansexual or queer.
I like pan. No, I don't like pants.
I think the community as well gives people the opportunity to explore more dynamics in relationships and find potential partners and identify as bi than you'd get in vanilla context.
I mean, I know that I do get really shocked when people say that they only prefer one gender in the kink, because it tends to be, and also I run a fat burlesque troupe, so it tends to be like they're all of these, because Melbourne is so incestuous, like, you know, kind of goths and rad fatties and kinksters and polys, they all kind of move in these, like the Venn diagram is almost a circle. So yeah, like I know that there's a girl that I was on a panel with once who identified as polyamorous, so she had multiple partners, but she was also vanilla and heterosexual. And that was a massive curiosity for me. She was lovely and amazing. I was just like, so you just like having regular sex with dudes, but lots of it? She's like, yeah, I love it. I'm like,
just a quick word about the bisexual thing though. I think people who feel more likely to come out to someone and say, listen, I want you to dress up like a dog and bark, you're going to go, okay, I like to have sex with someone who's the same gender as me. And everyone's just going to go, okay. And the gender of the person doesn't matter so long as they're happy to dress up as a dog and bark, I guess.
I think that's what people think. People confuse the kink scene with the swinger scene and think that it's like they'll get into the club and some like it hot but some sweat when the heat is on, and there's just people rushing, which isn't the case. Although there is, and people freak out because they'll see a vinyl bed with someone getting needles stuck into them and they're like, oh, this isn't in the Rihanna film clip. So kink is not just about sex and not just about genitals and or about sexual acts.
That makes it much more interesting, doesn't it, I think? That's all we have time for currently on our current Dig Deeper Kink. But we will be back. Thank you to Lisa-Skye, Hunter and Dylen.